Kathleen Edwards joins us now from her coffee shop, Quitters in Stittsville, Ontario. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello, Tom. I need one of those.
How are you doing?
Those blankets. Your blankets that you have. That's a beautiful blanket behind you.
Yeah, my Nan Hayward, my mom's mom. I got it from her, and I brought it up to me when I moved to St. John's. I'll sell it to you, but it'll cost a fair bit of money. Or maybe I can merchandise it and sell it at the shop.
I couldn't afford it. It's invaluable. It's invaluable.
So Kathleen, now Quitters is able to reopen. How's that going?
It feels like I feel like I'm a startup all over again. I feel like I'm in my first week of business kind of all over again, where you're suddenly running your shop and setting up infrastructure and operation protocols that are new. So, it's kind of like dancing in heels if you've never put on heels. Maybe, I don't know, something like that.
I'll find out.
I'm not a big heels person. It's like doing the mambo. Wait, is that the thing with the bar where you go under? It's like doing the mambo. Is that what it's
That's
called?
the limbo. That's a limbo.
Like doing limbo with a bad back. That's how it feels right now.
Tell me the story of why you opened Quitters in the first place.
Well, I moved to Stittsville in 2013, and Stittsville's just like a small, got the COVID, small 2013. It's a small. COVID jokes are not good right now. Do not make a COVID joke. I moved here in 2013, and basically there were no coffee shops there, and I had lived in, and traveled a lot, and so I had seen a million sort of versions of workable, lovely, big and small cafe culture, and this town needed one. I was like, there's nothing. And I had lived in Toronto before I moved back home. I had lived in Toronto, just in this neighborhood called Riverdale. And at the end of my street was Rooster Coffee House, and it was this beautiful cafe in an old house that they had just this woman had a job in film and decided, I'm going to do this. And so she became someone I became friends with her. And over the course of those years, then I saw her thrive as a cafe owner. And when I moved here, I texted her and she said, if I can do it, you can do it. You just put one foot in front of the other and you'll figure it out. And so I did.
And did it work in terms of what you were feeling with your music career? Like, did it help?
Well, I think the hardest thing was just verbalizing, I don't want to do this anymore. That was the hardest part of that whole experience, because you have all these people in your life who have supported you. They've been people you employ, but they're also your friends, and from managers to bandmates to your tour, like your crew, all those people, I felt like I'd be letting them down, even though, I was one of many people that they worked for or with. And I just felt like I was giving up. Like I thought, well, if I stick it out longer, maybe I'll just finally catch that break that I'm working my ass off to get. I just lost total perspective. I'd lost all the joy of creating was just gone because I was burned out, and I tried to stick it out through that. So opening Quitters helped immensely because suddenly I had a purpose. I was excited about doing something again. And there's a hugely creative aspect to this type of business, restaurant, cafe. There's a huge creative part of what this is. I curated a space. I curated, a vibe that I wanted to be an extension of me in a cafe. And that just gave me a huge sense of purpose and identity in a way that music never gave me. I got to form relationships with people based on seeing them daily. And I just didn't have that before. I would meet someone at the end of a show every night, and the exchange would be so sincere and lovely and kind, but it was a one-off. And here I was working in a place where I'd see the same people every day, and I got to know their stories, and they became part of my community every day. And that was something I didn't have as a musician for so long. And it was really, left me wanting, which I didn't realize at the time. But now that I have it, it's just been such a wonderful thing to have.
So
Sorry,
when
that
did you
was a
start
very
writing
long
songs
answer.
again? Sorry.
I started writing songs again. I was working back there in the kitchen. I'd had an email from a singer named Mara Morris. She has she's the voice behind that huge international hit, "The Middle," which came out about 2 years ago. It kind of peaked, I think. Anyway,
Yeah,
and
she's
she called
huge.
to say she's huge. She's huge. And she called and said, I'm writing a record, and I've always been a fan of Kathleen's work. Would she come to Nashville? And I was working back there in the kitchen. I'd had a bunch of staff kind of leave. It was stressful. I was like, whoa. And I just thought, yes, I'll go. What's the worst that can happen is that, I don't have anything to contribute, but I'll try. And it ended up being this really genuinely wonderful writing experience, which I'd never been a co-writer. I don't go to Nashville and write. I know a lot of people do that and earn a living doing that. This just was not in my wheelhouse. It's just not in, or just wasn't interested in that extension of songwriting or creating. It just doesn't really appeal to me. But this was just such a authentic and easy experience. And I came home from that 5 days or 4 days away, and the light bulb was just on again. I was like, oh, this is a huge part of who I am, and I'm excited about it again. So I basically set in motion a very sort of imperfect path to trying to write and make a record again.
Did it feel different because you had started the coffee shop? Like, it sounds to me like you took pretty much the biggest risk a performer and an artist can take, which is to stop doing it, to have something that's good going and then to stop doing it. It's a gigantic, gigantic risk. And it really feels like it worked. Like, it feels like you're coming back fresher, you're coming back different, you're coming back the way you wanted to come back.
Yeah, well, I heard there was a lot of messaging when I was a young woman, and when I became a woman who wanted to have a family. In my sort of, it was there, okay, where it was like, if you have a kid, your career's going to take a hit. If you take a break too long, everyone's going to forget about you. Yeah. And it was such a negative message that was omnipresent in my career as a musician, and it kept me doing things longer than I should have been doing them. And I'm sure there are so many people I'm sure can relate to that. So, it just, quitting was the best thing I could do. But, I told my parents, I remember telling my parents, I'm going to open a cafe, and here I found this place, and blah, 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 I'm going to incorporate, and I have this idea. And they kind of stopped, and they're obviously, my parents are incredibly proud of me, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but their first reaction which was the reaction of a lot of people, like, but you're so good at music. And you're like, yes, but I fucking hate it.
Yeah, right.
Thanks,
so,
but it could go itself. So
anyway. So how's this record then? I mean, you sent me a song a couple of months ago, and I really loved it. And I wrote you kind of like a 3-essay text about how much I loved it. But how are you feeling about it coming out? How are you feeling about dipping the toe kind of firmly back into the water?
I feel like I'm putting my first record out again, because I'm not, I don't feel like it's on the heels of my last project. I don't feel like there's this comparative pressure on me to go, well, what direction has she gone in now? It's like, I broke that continuity, and I broke that chain by taking this kind of break. And, I have a different label. I have a different manager now. I've really changed. I have a fresh start. And so there's an ease about it. Funny, I remember when Ani DeFranco wrote her memoir, wrote an autobiography. I remember she was on your show, and I listened to the interview probably the first week that book came out. And I was so, I had an incredibly visceral experience where I could hear how vulnerable she felt in that interview. She was incredibly raw and incredibly vulnerable because she had worked on this thing and just put it out in the world, and she hadn't really heard from anyone yet. She hadn't experienced the process of sharing it. And I've felt like that every time I put out a record out. The last few records I put out, I always felt that way. Like, I put so much of myself into this. Is it even good? Like, does anyone? Is this? You just feel so vulnerable, and I could hear it in her voice during that interview. And I remember thinking, like, I really hope that isn't. I really hope that this isn't going to be that experience for me, and it just hasn't been, which is nice.
I remember that very well. I remember saying to her off the top of, like, Ani, I like the book. How's everybody been dealing with it? Because it's about real people. And she said, like, I felt like it was the first person that had ever said anything to her about the book. And then she was just like, I don't know how people are going to think about it. I don't know how people are going to feel about these things. I just don't know. I can't believe it's even out. You're right. It was.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that's
exactly
like.
The position I'm in now. It's like, I have no idea, but you know what? I really like my record. I know I had, if anything, it was just something that I fought. I had to juggle a lot of different things in my life the last few years to make it happen. And I did it. And man, oh man, do I ever feel like, whew, good on you, KE. You did it. Like, I kind of feel more empowered in my life right now than I have, even a year ago. I just feel incredibly strong, and I have so much gratitude for the people who have, who've come to my coffee shop and been loving and kind to me, and my staff who are, incredibly good people who care about quitters, and my new manager who I have this wonderful relationship with. Like, it's good, like this. It's a little bit of a scary time right now for people, and I really feel like I was reminded recently that I'm a really resilient person. And so maybe my resilience or feeling of self-confidence or feeling of like, it's going to be okay. And we got this. And I have that energy right now. So, and I didn't have that for a long time. So I don't mind being like, let's go, giddy up.
Tell me about the song you're going to play.
Oh, I think I'm going to play a song called Options Open, which is the single from the record. It's a big chart top and hit single, climbing up the charts. What's it about? Well, it came about when I was navigating some very unstable water in a relationship a few years back. And this person was questioning my motives, or like whether or not I was trustworthy, and trying to pick away at my course, the way I've lived my life and the choices I've made, and how I treat people, and what ex-boyfriends I'm still in touch with and which ones I'm not. And I remember having this conversation where I was like, I really love you. And that we can figure this out. All these dynamics that might seem foreign to you or different to me, we can work this out. but I am with you, and I do love you. And before then, maybe I was keeping my options open. I remember saying, like, maybe that's why, I wasn't sure, because I was keeping my options open, not like, I'm on Tinder 24/7, just like I wasn't ready to kind of commit to someone. I was keeping my options open, and
Yeah.
now I'm not keeping my options open. And that's where that song came from. That was, whoa, that was too much. It was too much information.
No, not at all. I can't wait to hear it. Kathleen, nice to
Okay.
talk to you.
Nice to talk to you, Tom, and good on you for plowing through from your sofa for people. People really they need what you do right now. So thanks for keeping it going.
God love you. I can't wait to have a cup of coffee with you now in your shop in 2022 or something like that.
We're gonna come out with the COVID blend. It keeps everyone strong and caffeinated.
Oh, good.